Let's move on to story number 2, Colin. That's the Denver Broncos riding high, 10-game win streak, 2-game lead over the Chargers in the AFC West. You know, Sean Payton, he's said division he's not really worried about. He's just taking things week by week.
The focus gets so inwardly driven to our own team that I recognize that a team that's won the division for however many straight years won't be able to win it this year. We got a stretch here with some real good football teams coming in, focusing on what we can do to win the division. The Chargers are very much alive in that battle.
Yeah, the NFL changes so quickly. Dynasty to not making the playoffs in a sport where 40% of the teams do.
They're not eliminated, the Chiefs. Let me just ask you about this vaunted Broncos defense. So I got some numbers because I've looked at this game. So the Colts, they had 7.1 yards per play, 473 yards against this Broncos defense. Jackson Dart went up and down the field. 5 long touchdown drives in Denver.
I know.
The Chargers, 6 drives of 50 or more yards against this Denver. Is the Denver defense awesome, or do they get fat and happy against bad teams?
I think there's some truth here. Like, I look at the Houston Texans and the Seahawks, and I see dominating, aggressive defenses. Length, speed, aggressive coach. I look at Denver's and I see one great pass rusher, one unbelievable Hall of Fame level corner, and good players. I like Denver's roster, but I like Bo Nix, and I like Cortland Sutton and Miners, the offensive line, and Garrett Bowles. I think Harvey's a little underrated, the running back.
Yeah, he had a good game.
I think they have a receiving core that's long and athletic. I think the Denver talent is spread. Oh, now, I think Hufanga is tremendous. I think the Denver talent is spread all over the place. I think Seattle and the Texans and the Rams have better defenses. I think Philly's defense is really talented.
Well, when healthy, they need Jalen Carter back, obviously. But I would agree with that sentiment. Final story,
Final story is we're going to continue to talk about this. I want to talk about this from a few different ways. I do think it's always important when you're evaluating, especially because how we evaluate defenses and offenses, like from the general standpoint, is typically like points per game, or how many points are you scoring, how many points are you giving. Sometimes if you really want to look at it, they'll do like yards and stuff like that, turnover, kind of some of these other metrics. But like at the end of the day, it's like, are you putting up points? Are you stopping the other team from putting up points? Right? That's obviously the name of the game. And sometimes those rankings can definitely be a little bit misleading because you get fat and happy all like Jack said, off of bad teams. And it works both ways, offensively, defensively, and everyone's always going to benefit from that to a degree, and that's why those games always do need to be unpacked from with a lot of nuance. And it's funny because I was looking at the schedule. I thought I was going to be making a clip for NFL Live, and so I was like, really kind of excited, and I was like, oh, you know what? I remember when I was going through the herd that they were kind of talking about like the AFC West and whatnot. So I was like, you know what, I'll do this. And so I'd already looked at the schedule and who they've already played, and I already have it queued up here that I'll bring up in a second. And now they start bringing up all these other teams, and I had already started thinking about, in my mind what I wanted to share, because I was about to say that I think that the Packers are going to be the most complete and the best team that the Denver Broncos have faced all season long. And I already shared my take yesterday saying how all of the questions that you have with regards to the Denver Broncos, they're going to be answered in that game. Like, that is where you get your answers from. I'm very comfortable always going through these games, and, I talk about this a lot now because it's definitely something that's pretty consistent, that I can go up against fans a little bit, especially in the comment section where I'm okay saying, that wasn't that good of a win, or that was an easy win, or that's a bad team, and yada yada, or you lose, but I still felt good about it, or whatever it is. And like people still really struggle with that concept. And looking at it like this, like the Titans game, we can throw out it's Cam Ward week 1, but now even week 2, it's like it's the Colts and the Broncos, and he's like, well, the Colts, and it's like the Colts were in the beginning before things kind of fell apart for them. They were on pace to be better, that have a better offense than the 2018 Chiefs and the 2011 or 2007, whichever one. They were undefeated Patriots. Like they were out of their mind. They were absolutely out of their mind. So so the Colts were hanging on everyone, and the Chargers are considered to have a great defense, and the Colts hung like, a million points on them. And also, especially week 2, the Broncos were at such a massive disadvantage because no one really knew who the heck Daniel Jones with the Indianapolis Colts were. You don't really know what you're doing. I don't even know how, when you're a coach, you're a defensive coach, like you're scheming specifically, you're game planning specifically to that quarterback, to that team. That's why they always talk about you kind of have to throw away some preseason games because coaches aren't necessarily doing that. You're not game planning against a quarterback or against anything specifically. And there's only so much to work with. Yeah. Daniel Jones with the Giants and this, I'm like, nobody really knew what that team was going to look like. And I'm sure they caught a lot of people by surprise. Now you go up against the Chargers, 23-20. I mean, like it's a competitive division rivalry game, like on the road. So it's just like, I don't know what's so bad about that. The Bengals we can throw away, and yeah, you do that. You sack and pressure Jake Browning a million times. I remember that game very vividly because that was a game where we were like, all right, the Broncos got to show out, got to have a clean game, got to have a big win, and they did, and it was at a time that they needed to. I think it was a Monday Night Football game, if memory serves me correctly. And so, having a game where you hold a team to only like 3 points, that really helps your points per game, right? For sure. Then he went up against the Eagles, and it's like, yeah, the Eagles' offense is so inconsistent, as we know, right? Like it's a little all over the place. The Jets we know are not good. The Giants, yeah, okay. Well, at this point, Jackson Dart is like has a lot of juice, and he's playing really well. And again, he's a computer. He's a quarterback who you don't have a lot of film on. You don't really know exactly what to expect. What's the plan? What is Brian Dable looking to do? Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But now also remember, up to all these points, now the Broncos offense isn't necessarily playing great, right? Like they're not having a lot of sustained drives, 3 and outs, et cetera, et cetera. Defense probably on the field a lot, feeling the burden of having to carry a lot of the weight. So it's just you're a lot less balanced now of a team. That was people's kind of concern. And yeah, they were showing up in the fourth quarter, but, et cetera. Now you go against the Cowboys. The defense disrupted the Cowboys. That score, wasn't that their backup quarterback that actually even ended up getting a touchdown? Again, my mind's fuzzy on some of this, but like they pretty much owned that game. And then now you're going up against Texans. Again, that was with CJ Shaw gets knocked out. Davis Mills goes in. They're not even really that good of a offense to begin with necessarily, but it's still, still there. The Raiders we can throw away. Geno Smith, again, these were still good defensive performances, but they only tell you so much. I only learned so much going up against the Raiders right now. I actually learned a lot going up against the Chiefs. Say what you will about that Chiefs offense. They still have the ability to score some points and do some damage. They just do. I know they're not perfect. I know they're not who they were. But they had no problem with the Dallas Cowboys defense. That's for sure. And yeah, we could say the Dallas Cowboys defense isn't that good, but like still, they were still able to do it. So like that kind of means something. And then you're like, yeah, but then look what they did against oh my gosh, what's his name? With the Washington Commanders. His name has completely slipped my mind right now. It'll come to me in a second, but whatever his name is right now, I can't think of it, and I'm not going to click into it. But he played great. He played awesome. He's a type of quarterback who can absolutely step up in games and go for stretches, right? He was a starting quarterback before, and you can make the argument that if he was with a better coaching staff, a better team throughout the course of his career, that it could be a little Sam Darnold, a little bit of Daniel Jones, et cetera, et cetera. So you're like, all right, he's not this terrible quarterback where you're just like, oh, dude, the Commanders do that. And so he played really well, and the Commanders' offense played really well, and the defense came up with massive gotta have it moment stops. And so that game was really impressive. And then against the Raiders, it's like, you know, that score is not really representative of anything either. So, you know, that's why going up against this Packers team, and it's kind of funny too, because even going up against this Packers team, their offense has been a little inconsistent. Like they've been randomly shut down or haven't looked right. Colin, because he was praising the Eagles defense just a second ago after that Packers-Eagles game, he specifically said, I don't want to hear it about the defense. When he was talking about Jordan Love and the Packers, he goes that Eagles defense is middle of the pack. That's all about the Packers offense not being good enough, you know? So, you know, it's like they could be great or maybe they could not be great. Like no team really is knocking everyone out with this idea of how consistent they can play, quite frankly. And that's why I kind of talked about this, where it's like Bo Nix and this offense specifically has really started to build a lot of momentum, consistency. And that's what I want to see more than anything. Because even if you want to say, like, because JX, like, be like, well, how good is this defense really? And it's just like, listen, I'm not trying to figure out if it's the number one defense, the two. Number two, number three, are some of the numbers misleading this? It's like that doesn't really mean that much to me, but I know it's good enough. That's all I care about at that point. It's like I know it's good enough, and I know it has the ability to be really, really disruptive. Can they, with maybe the reliability of this Texans defense or something, swallow up people nonstop? It's like, you know, maybe not. Again, I don't know. I'm not too concerned about it, but I know that this defense, like any defense, can still get beat. Like every single defense, all the great defenses can still have a game where they get lit up. So gets knocked out for the remainder of the game, and now like everything just kind of unfolds a little bit. But I know you're never banking on that. You know, even if they give up a bunch of points in the first half, the defense can still elevate in that second half and give the offense a chance, et cetera, et cetera. And as long as the offense can also play some complementary football, not turn the ball over, not a lot of these short drives, give the defense time, rest, et cetera, you know, help them out, pin them back, you know, on the back, you know, in their own end zone and whatnot. Get the lead so they can just get after the quarterback. Like, you know, the defense is going to be great enough. You're not going to be concerned. You're not going to go into the playoffs and be like, yeah, but can this defense really slow down? Like, and insert any quarterback, any team you want. Like, yeah, they could be disruptive again. Can they shut them down completely where you're like, as long as we just score 12 points, we're going to win this game in the playoffs? Like, no. And I don't know who feels that way right now. Like, no defense is like that right now. So I don't think we have to, you know, be too narrow through the lens of trying to figure out how good or not good is this defense. Because to me, it's all about, can this team really bring forward the ability to truly play just complementary football throughout these next, you know, 3-4 games and into the playoffs? And so that's very much offense and defense, and I'm excited to see what Bo Nix in this offense looks like specifically against this Green Bay Packers defense, because I have a lot more confidence in the consistency of the Green Bay Packers defense than I do the offense, because Jordan Love could just at any moment maybe throw you a couple bad picks or, you know, whatever it may be. And again, I believe in the Packers and I believe in Jordan Love, but like I keep trying to emphasize, like, there's really no team or no offense that I really have a huge like chest out. I trust the level of consistency without a shadow of a doubt. This team is going to bring it right now. And so, but I do have that feeling for the Packers defense. And so that's why I really want to see what the Broncos offense looks against that. And even if the Broncos defense like gives up some points and gives up some yards, and it's like you know, it's another 27-26 win, like I'm not going to feel less about it because I'm like, yeah, this Packers offense has the ability to light it up. I mean, Jordan Love has made over these last few weeks has been spectacular and has made some unbelievable throws. And I'm excited to see what the Broncos defense does against that too, right? Like, that's where I want to see where it's just like, are you able to disrupt Jordan Love when he's making these throws? Is he making great throws that you're then breaking up, or you're making it difficult for him to kind of get enough behind it? Is he making good decisions? Bad decisions? Like if the Packers get shut down by this Broncos defense, but clear by the Broncos op, yes. If the Packers get shut down by this Broncos defense, but it's clear that the Packers just didn't have a great game or whatever, and Jordan, and then it's just like, all right, well then it's just like, that only means so much to me as well. It's just like, at this point of the season, you're taking very, very, very nuanced looks and nuanced takes about these things. But my floor for the Broncos right now is like, well, I have the confidence, so like I don't have to zoom in too much, but I'm still also not going to throw the nuance out, throw the baby out with the water either. So I find it all really interesting right now. And again, I'm not going through the schedule and being like, well, who have you really beat, right? Like that's not the game I'm playing right now, but it's like the Titans, the Colts, they were interesting for a little while. The Chargers, interesting. But again, all their injuries, it's like hard to evaluate the quality of team that they are. Bengals, obviously nothing. The Eagles have been the definition of an inconsistent wild team. Jets, nothing. Giants, again, fascinating team, but who are they? The Cowboys also kind of a fascinating offense, terrible defense. Made some changes, in the middle of the season. Okay. Texans, we know they're kind of, great defense. Offenses, I don't know. Raiders awful. Chiefs collapsing. Commanders not a playoff team. And also collapsing. Like, so there's just so much to do with it right now. And the truth is like once upon a time is like, if I go through the Bills schedule or the Patriots schedule, perfect example of this. People hang their hat on, their big wins were against the Bucs and the Bills. And it's like, well, the Bills have some really bad losses right now. The Bucs, like I know everyone was all high on Baker Mayfield being the MVP and whatnot, but like not quite. So it's just like, I don't know what does that mean? And the Broncos, boosted their chest by beating the Eagles. And it's like, yeah, that was impressive. And then it's like, well, I don't know, was it right? And it's like, again, obviously you guys know I'm super high on the Broncos, so it's not used to downplay them. But it's just like typically when you have some big wins, there's like a lot of trust in that team. It's like, this year if the Chiefs and the Eagles and the Ravens and the Bills and, all the usual suspects that we know are pretty reliably really good, really great, know how to execute at a high level, balance, offense, balance defense, etc., and playing with a level of consistency. It's like when you take them down, when you beat them, when you play a tough game with them, you're like, yeah, that was a good game. Because we think about how we always look at the strength of schedule before any of these games are played. And yet we have no idea actually how good are the Cowboys. How good are maybe the Jets with Justin Fields are great, and they're going to be awesome, and that defense is going to be on fire. Like, you don't actually know. A lot of it is based off of what happened in the past, and then kind of like, obviously, like, who did you draft this guy? What moves did you make in free agency? Hire this coach, fire that one. And so right now, the season, it's just like, I don't know what games are a great barometer game, because even, the Jets could be like, look, we hung with the Broncos, right? Like we had that game. Therefore we're as good as the Broncos. We're right there. And it's like, are you though? Right? Like same thing with the Raiders. It's like, are you, it's just a mess. It's just a mess. Every time I look at a team's schedule, the games that they played, going through the numbers, you're just like, how do I make sense of this right now? It's like, how good were the Colts in that immediate moment relative, right? It's like one team beats the Colts right now. It's so different than when if you beat them or lost to them in the first 5 weeks of the season or something. So yeah, I don't know. I think I'll end here. At the end of the day, if I'm really trying, if you said you got to figure out how good is this Broncos defense right now, and how are you going to figure it out? You're not going to like try to zoom in and look at the players and the individual, that you're just like how they performed in these games. It's like, and I know there were some injuries for the Broncos as well in some of these games, but that's fair, you know. But it's like I look at the Chargers game and I think the defense played pretty well. And I remember Justin Herbert making some pretty spectacular throws. Bo Nix missed a couple throws that game. Really changes the complexity of the game significantly, but they only gave up 23 points. That easily could have been a game that they had 17, you know, like 20 or less points. It's like, okay, that's a major victory. And that was when the Chargers, again, you know, they started getting banged up kind of early on in the season, but not what they had eventually become. So it's like I like that. I'm gonna throw out the Eagles because they're just a mess. We know their offense is a mess. They could have moments, but like there's just no reliability there. With any sense of that. So it's like I throw them out there. The Giants, it's like Jackson Dart was a really fascinating quarterback, made some really awesome plays. That game got so wild, obviously, as we all know, right? Like that game was absolutely insane. It's like I kind of just chalk it up to like, well, that was just an insane game. Like, I don't know. I don't know what to tell you, right? Like, it was just an insane game. I'm not so sure really digging into the stats and be like, well, so they gave up this amount of rushing yards and this passing yards, and so was, you know, 8 for 12 on third down. It's just like, I'm like, I don't know, man. That game was insane. The Broncos did essentially nothing for those first 3 quarters, like offensively. It's just, you know, I don't know. Now the Cowboys, their offense was still pretty legit. And again, I forget if CeeDee Lamb played or not in that game, but it was legit. And the Broncos said, we don't care, right? We do not care. That great Packers defense, I'm pretty sure they got lit up by the Cowboys prior to that game, you know, before that game took place. And so there was kind of like, hey, there was a lot of momentum between Dak, MVP, et cetera, like, wow, this offense is actually legit. The defense is the problem. And the Broncos were like, nope. And they absolutely scored less than 24 points. Like, that game was over. It was like a random touchdown near the end of the game, backup quarterback. So like they swallowed that up. And then, like I said, I'll stand by my Chiefs take as well. And so it's just like, so in some of the games that you're really looking at, what can the opposing offense do? I think the Broncos rose to the occasion, all things considered. You know, the biggest outlier for me is really actually that Giants-Broncos game. And like I said, that game was so insane. They shouldn't even had a touchdown for the Giants in that one. Wasn't there like an absolute awful pass interference call that made it even possible that then I don't even remember at that point like how exactly the chain of events exactly unfolded, because it was like, you got to get a field goal, got to get a touchdown. All the drives that happened in the final few minutes was just so insane. They got the big interception against Jackson Dart. A little bit of a gift from Jackson Dart for sure. So that game's just too wild to draw too strong of conclusions, but I'm confident in it. And I'm excited to see what they do against the Packers, and I think they'll have a good game plan. And you know, it's not supposed to be easy, right? You're not supposed to just be able to easily march in and just shut down every single offense and just expect that it's just like, yep, we're going to hold you to 14 points. Boom, game over. Just not how it works, but those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think about the Denver Broncos? How do you feel about them? How do you feel about how complete this team is right now? Do you have concerns about the defense? Bo Nix, you know, Colin's saying that he thinks that the, you know, couple of these other teams have better defenses than the Broncos. You know, the Packers are a favorite. I see this now. 2.5 at Denver. It's pretty interesting. Yeah, this is such a big game. But let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I read every single comments, whether you agree with me or disagree with me. Either way, let's get in some discussions. Let's get in some fights. But ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here and absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all generally feel connected to, something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're well on our way to doing it. Please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much. See you next time.